Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with and talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
How do I want to answer the second one?
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. Got Devin Gordon with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
April 1st, 2024. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. How's it going? Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Hope everybody's doing wonderful tonight. I want to start off before I ask how you guys are doing. Let's wish our very own Chris Lynn. It's his birthday today. So very happy birthday. Just turned 21. Looking great. How does it feel?
Oh, far from 21, good sir. But not bad, another day. My age matches my iRacing car number now, so get that for a year. So here we go. Not upside down, just
not upside
down. Jeremy had to
23.
Figure it
out. Brad, Steph, what's going on? See you guys in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks everybody for tuning in with us. We weren't sure what we were going to do this week because we couldn't get a guest. Everybody's kind of busy, and we also wasn't that much to talk about, unfortunately. The weather, it just keeps biting us in the ass every weekend. But we did get two. We got one locally and then one really good World of Outlaw race in this weekend. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the upcoming weekend, hoping that the weather holds up good. And then we'll see where it goes. If you guys got questions, you guys got topics you want to talk about, make sure you throw them in the chat. We want to hear them. If you guys got opinions, comments, questions, anything, throw them in the chat. It's awesome. So, but yeah.
I know Brad says in the chat there about Woomer today. I think he was going to the races on Friday, asked if I was going. I was not. The child, we elected to not do that. So good call on my part, I think, with her. But a little cold there, right, Jeremy? You were there.
It was very cold from the start. It was cold. It was windy. Again, and it was dark quick. So, and they started late, and then they had a water truck issue spraying water on the middle of the backstretch, and they started later. So yeah. It was a long night in a hurry, cold, long night in a hurry. So it is what it is. It's March, I guess it was March. So
yeah,
I mean, like every year I feel like sometime in March you get a good weekend, and we haven't had one. We have not had a good weekend yet. Like we've had some good sun, and we were all thankful for sunny weather, but now we're just like kind of over it. And I still say we're going to night racing too damn early. Years like this may not happen often, but when they do, it's pretty miserable, you know?
Well, let's start right there with Williams Grove. I watched it from Dirt Vision. Jay-Z, you were there. It was an awesome, awesome feature. Anthony Macri getting the win right at the end over Mike Walter, who led pretty much, he did lead the entire race. It was a hell of a race. Anthony Macri came from 17th to win this race. The way the lineup was, with the way the heat draws worked out and everything, made for a really, really interesting night. Even the heats, were kind of single file. They are what they are, but it put a lot of really good cars in the back and into the B main, and made for some really good comers and goers in the feature. Like I said, Anthony Macri first. Dylan Norris grabbed second after Mike Walter got a little sideways out of turn 4 when Macri ripped the top around him on the outside to grab the win. Yeah, so thoughts on this?
Fantastic feature. I knew Macri started, middle of the field, back half of the field. Didn't realize till we're in victory lane where he started. I knew he started back there because the heat races were just locked down. Nobody was really passing. It was fast. It was narrow. People tried to do things, and Macri was handicapped to the back of his heat and actually made a few passes to get out of his heat, and it probably won him that race, knowing he was going to go from where he was. If he runs the B, he may not get there. But Danny, Freddie, Spencer Baston, all in the B main, the handicap got them, and they weren't able to pass the cars to get transferred in, let alone start at the front of the field, because they lined the field up in the A main based on your heat race results. They didn't do a redraw; it was heat race results only. So, it put some guys at the front of the field who are certainly capable, but not multi-time winners. You had Mike Walter and Steve Buckwalter and a bunch of guys starting at the front of the field there that certainly capable, but aren't guys that win 10 races a year. So it definitely created that. And honestly, I was standing at the beginning of that feature, kind of in the backstretch, entering turn 3, and I wasn't counting cars and who was where, but Anthony Macri was making moves entering turn 3 that just astounded me. Like I had to lean back and watch because he was entering the corner so fast, and he did not have runs on guys, and they'd be 3-4 car lengths in front of him, and he would just blow right past them and pray it stuck on the other side. It wasn't even really sliders. He just drove the car straight for the amount of time through 3 and 4. It reminded me a lot of when Lance in his prime at Williams drove, the way he ran in 3 and 4 and sort of slid across, and it wasn't really a slider because he was straight for so long. He just drove it really straight and then tried to get the car turn and exit. So, as he got going through there, and we had a yellow or red, and I kind of moved around the track, and I was like, man, Anthony's third, in a restart. And I was like, this feels like it's over, right? And it wasn't but it felt like in third place with less than 10 to go, it was still over. Macri was going to win this race. And listen, he had Walter passed, and the yellow came out. It saved Mike Walter. So he got the lead back and actually had a pretty good restart. I was telling some folks standing there in 3 and 4 with me, I was in the middle of 3 and 4. I said, he needs a restart, the restart of his life, a 4-lap lead restart. That's what he needs. And he got 3 3/4 of it. So
literally until turn 4.
3 3/4 of it. And he really didn't do anything wrong with 3 and 4. But if we watch the replay, 1 and 2, he stumbled just a little bit on entry on the curb.
Yep.
And it allowed Anthony to get to his back bumper, which allowed Anthony to get the attempt in 3 and 4. But I'll tell you what, man, Anthony was going to win that race or probably crash that race car because there really wasn't room. It was narrow. It was one of those moves where you're like, well, throw him over the shoulder and go after it. And it stuck. So it was awesome. It was a great finish to a race. But man, did I hate that for Mike Walter.
Yeah.
He run his heat race going away, led every lap. There were definitely people hounding him, but honestly, nobody really pressured him until Macri got there. He did a great job on restarts. He had a good pace going.
He controlled the race.
He really had a good enough car. Man, I'm heartbroken for the guy. And honestly, I don't know how he didn't crash the car and got third because I watched what happened there. That thing went up to the wall in a hurry. Not many people recover from where he went.
Mm-hmm.
Tail tank was actually in good shape. The rear bumper guard or bumper or whatever, which just shifted all the way over. He backed it into the wall, kept going, finished third. So, good run there. Dylan Norris P2. It was a quiet P2, but he did a great job. He was there. He didn't really contend necessarily to get to Walter or Macri, but hell of a good night for him because we can talk about that here in a minute. Wins the 358 feature from even further back, 17, I want to say. So this will definitely, Williams Grove with where the winners came from, will definitely up that average of starting position winners. So, last year it was like 2 point something, the average starting position for the winner. This will help that average, climb a little bit, so 14th. Yeah. So, um, I, it ended up being a good feature. So
Yeah.
that's all we can ask
Right.
for again,
Right. I think you're spot on. I was getting updates from Jimmy about the race. Heartbreak from Mike Walter. And I know we're all pretty big Mike Walter fans, and seeing him would have been cool, right? But you have to tip of the cap to a guy that can go from 17th to win. That's the whole point of the handicap system is to make those guys earn it, and Anthony Macri absolutely did that. So that's when you see the handicap system work as intended, right there. Other than that, I mean, a 258 race, Dylan Norris just doing Dylan Norris things, and that 6 car has been fast every time he's driven it. So
Yeah, Tyler, you can't ask us that question. You're supposed to be the one answering that question for us.
When
When
was the
was the
last
last
time
time someone
someone
won
won
from
from
17
17th
to
to
growth?
Grove?
I
We
would
don't know.
have to say
You're
it's.
the guy that's supposed to answer that for us. Like
I only
we're
remember.
gonna,
I trying to think. Fred Raymer won a race from 20 something, but they all crashed a lot that race. It was an outlaw show. I think did he win from 24 or something like that? Um, Otherwise, probably Lance. If I was just gonna throw a dart at a board,
Yeah, I'm not.
I,
I'm
I
not
want to
sure.
say the farthest back I remember is 22nd. I want to say Fred Raymer in the 51 car started like 22nd in one of those years during that posse dominant stuff. But I don't know 100% accuracy on one. It was been one of the May races, probably 2008, 9, somewhere in that
yeah.
time frame.
I have to look it up. Somebody look up that stat while we're on here. I'd love to know. Yeah, Dylan Norris, in that 6 car, they got it rolling, and I think that 6 car, Brad McClellan could get around Trailway really good in that car in Lincoln Speedway, and when he stepped out of that car, another driver or two were in it and things, but Dylan Norris has definitely shown what that car's capable of. Already has 2 wins in it this season, one at Lincoln and one at Williams Grove now. And honestly, he came from the back of that field as well and saw him coming and coming and coming. And it was a hell of a battle for the lead between uh, who was it? Matt Finley, Zach Newland, and Dylan. And it was a hell of a 3-car battle. But once Dylan got the lead, man, he was gone, like just checked out. So that just shows you how fast his car was. And the clean air was sort of like not holding him back, but was keeping that race a race. But once he got going, man, he was gone. So I think Zach Newland ended up P2. So hell of a run for him. And honestly, Zach Newland, talking about it, he got a win late last year and finishes P2, opening 358. His season debut in the 21 there, the Mansburger 21. So that's a good run for him. Kyle Spence ends up P3.
Yeah.
Kyle was there. Kyle actually drove through the field there, but it was like a quiet P3. But when he crossed, I'm like, damn, Kyle got third.
Yeah, he ran up in like the top 5 almost all night.
Yeah. Preston Latimus P4, Doug Hamaker in 5th. And I'll tell you what, Doug Hamaker, man, I'm telling you, I don't know if they showed any of it, but his heat race, he had started back of his heat and
Dude,
only entertaining was that guy. Like doing stuff that just driving harder. It didn't matter who was in front of him. He was driving harder than them. He almost wrecked him and somebody else a couple times. I don't know how they both didn't flip outside of 4. And yeah.
There it is. Confirmation from Santos and Tyler. I was right. Fred.
2010.
Last the first, and that was a wild night. I'm pretty sure Chad Layton won the prelim night in the Middlesworth car, and then that one Fred won, and it was just chaos all race long.
I do vaguely remember that.
Pretty sure Steve. Yeah, wild times. I'm surprised I got that one right.
Yeah, Matt Finley, Doug Hamaker in that heat race. Holy shit! I like cringed. Like holy crap, they're going. There's somebody's going to ballpark this thing out of turn 4. The way the contact was made, and they both saved it, kept going. It was crazy. But Doug Hamaker ends up there at P5 in the 358 race, and obviously a fast race car. Just was buried, and it took a little more time for him to get through there than it did Dylan. So, Dylan Norris, what a weekend! P2 and P1. And you know,
Can't get much better than that.
not to look forward, look ahead. Could be a big race weekend for him again this weekend. We'll see. You know, there's some big races coming up this weekend. So I don't know what his schedule looks like. I don't know, but I can only assume he's going to be double duty a lot Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
So
I would
Tyler,
imagine.
that Johnny shots. Go ahead. Say
No, go
Tyler, that's that big crash where the scary one where shots had the whole front end of the car ripped off. It was just the cockpit sitting there off of Monteith's nose. That was a 8-car pileup, something like that. That was crazy.
no doubt.
To go back to the 410 feature a little bit, Briggs Danner had a hell of a night. Looked really good. He was up there. Kyle Moody, I wanted to give a shout out to. He finished fourth. He was my pick going into the race when I saw the feature lineup, because I'm like, all right, he's due for a win. He never won at Williams Grove, I believe. He never has. I think that's what they said. But
That's right.
he looked really good. He was pretty fast. But again, give Mike Walter huge credit. He controlled that race once he got out front, and just until the last corner. It took Macri taking his balls and dragging him up on the top and putting 4 in the fluff and just trying to drive around him, and that's what it ended up being. So I mean, it's hard. And he came over. You know, you've seen this picture. They're talking. You know, he came right over right after his victory lane speech or during it kind of, and was like trying to congratulate him. You know, I could imagine, you know, we know Mike's had some trials and tribulations, especially last year, you know, some really frustrating finishes when he thought he could have win. And I'm like, oh man, like this, you know, to lose like that is so heartbreaking, but he was in really good spirits, and he should be, because he ran well. He showed that, you know, a guy with not a lot of experience at Williams Grove can go and lead, and he looked really good. So hopefully that's a good momentum booster for them for the 2024 season. And I think once he gets a win, he's going to rip off a bunch.
Yeah, I agree completely. I was thinking that today. I talked to him a little bit today. I was sending him a picture that I got, and I just had that same. I've been thinking that for like a year now. When he gets that win, man, I feel like he breaks through and just wins a bunch. I really do, because he's led so many of them. And he actually posted, I think, Friday night, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Man, leading at Port Royal last year, flat tire, leading and crash, leading and blow up. Like, he's been in position, right? And it's going to happen. It will happen. He's too talented not to. And if Port Royal ever races again, if they ever race again, he may get a win this year or multiple. So it could be that kind of year.
I agree. Tyler Briggs Danner is another one that once he wins, he's been all season when he's been in that car, the wing car. I mean, he's right there. He looks fast, and he did again on Friday night. Looks like he's going to be running Bridgeport after the USAC East Coast races at Georgetown and Bridgeport Friday and Saturday. We'll get into that a little bit later.
And you can almost see his confidence growing. Like as he races more lap by lap, you can see his confidence growing, and you know, the dirty air and racing around other cars, and when to be aggressive, and you know, when to make laps. And you can just see, like, by the attitude of the car and the things that he's doing, that he's learning lap by lap, and he's a quick learner for sure. We've seen that. He's proven it. You know, guys that do a lot of this wingless stuff don't just translate. Not everybody does it quickly, right? They don't quickly adapt to the wing stuff. And man, like you feel like he has, you know, and at least at Williams Grove, you know, we'll see, you know, it's a small sample size, and but he's ran well on different surfaces now, and we'll see. Looking forward to see his talent, man. He is a guy to look out for no matter what direction he goes in his career.
Yeah, he's talented in whatever car he pretty much gets in. I mean, you know, we talked to him at Bridgeport last year pre-race, also modifieds. I mean, just he can get in it. He's like one of those kids that could just get into anything and be competitive. It's you know, it's not something that's easy. So it's not easy to be competitive in one car, let alone a bunch. You know, so also want to give a shout out, Kyle Keene making his 410 debut, got some nice, good, clean laps in. Seems like he learned a lot. That had to be because it was so hammered down. That had to be the fastest he's ever gone in a sprint car, I would imagine. 410, locked down Williams Grove. It's his 410, first time in a 410. Yeah, I'd imagine. I don't know, but
I would think so. I got to talk to him in brief spurts, you know, throughout the evening, and he came back in from hot laps, and I guess when he went to like take off for the first time, he was on the backstretch, and he said it just spun the tires. He's like, I had to like, whoa, okay, like the straightaways weren't as gripped up as the corners. He didn't have any wing speed yet, and it was just all throttle. And he's like, I had to like, okay, calm down, lay into the throttle, like, and then he was like, really got settled in a little bit and ran some good laps, and that was really the point. Um, I don't think any race car driver that's competitive at all is going to feel like they were happy with the result, but that wasn't really the point. So that's hard to, like, mentally, that's hard to be like, no problem. But you're going to go in and improve every night out. You're going to go in and improve. And honestly, beginning of that heat race, he went into 1 and 2 for 3 or 4 laps there and was hanging with the back of the field just fine. And he said the one time he ran in the corner and he ran up on Freddie, and he's like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
this is supposed to happen. But Freddie was all like wadded up and bound up and super tight and almost biked it and flipped over. But he was like, oh, like, oh, this is real, So lining up behind Spencer Baston in your first ever 410 heat race, like, what? Are you kidding me? So pretty surreal moment, I think, for him, but super proud of him. Get out there and make the laps.
There was a kid in the Outlaw race. I can't remember what his name was, but it was his first ever 410 race. He ran 6 or 7 305 races, and then decides to make his 410 debut with the World of Outlaws. Lap 1, turn 1, I believe it was Junks to car. So those are your two opposite sides there. Kyle went out and did what he needed to do, go learn with the best, and get your, especially after last week with the 358 deal when he was leading, and that kind of forced his hand a little bit to jump into the 410 a little bit earlier. But he looked good, and I was really happy to see him. He went out, he was fairly competitive, and looked good doing it. So good for him. Even though the results page might not show it, it's a lot more than just that when it comes to someone just making their 410 debut like that. So, how about Danny Dietrich? He had a pretty rough night. 3 straight yellows. Well, 2 yellows and a red. Within 3 laps. That was really the only real bit. Well, Linton Jeffrey had a couple ordeals in his B main throughout the night. But Danny, him and McCandless got together after he had back-to-back yellows for a flat tire and then something else. I think there's a yellow for something else, and then Danny came in to fix something during that yellow, and then comes right back out and that first lap flips it.
He got a flat tire. So I didn't see it, but there were a bunch of kids behind me, MF and Freddie. So they must have gotten together in some form or fashion. Blame Freddie. Okay, whatever. He comes in, fixes the flat, goes out. They take the green. He basically causes a yellow on the backstretch, but never stops. Goes into pits, gets his yellow, goes into pits, fixes something. It was his yellow. Purposely brought out a yellow. Comes back out, starts going through the field, and cleans out McCandless. And apologized on social media. Thought he was going to be clear. But listen, the way that track was, if you're not clear, you're going to cause a big one. And he was not clear, clearly. So. He did apologize on social media, but it doesn't really fix Logan's car. They were ready to go at Lincoln actually on Saturday night. Logan was there. They got the car fixed up, and they were going to go to Port. Port canceled early. They made the attempt to go to Lincoln. They never opened the trailer door, but they were there, and they had a car ready to go. So pretty cool for McCandless to get that thing fixed up. It sucks. But all those kids, it was weird. All those kids that were MF and Freddie were really quiet when Danny cleaned out McCandless. It was strange. They didn't have that same energy when it was their favorite, I guess. So. Whatever.
I mean, it was just a tough night for him. You know what I mean? I think, obviously I wonder if that had a little extra, the fact that he got a flat tire off of Freddie probably just adds to this list of Danny versus Freddie. It's what makes that rivalry so great. But, was he pushing a little too hard? Maybe, obviously maybe that was the case, but just a tough night for him.
Yeah, you had to drive hard to take chances to pass cars and just miscalculated it. I don't like it.
No.
14th or 15th at that point. And there was enough laps left, I guess, that they're, make something out of it. But just, I don't know. Just don't need to be tearing up race cars because you're driving angry. Maybe he
Yeah.
wasn't. I'm assuming, but you have to
Yeah.
assume based on how the night was going, it was pretty bad.
That's what I mean.
You know?
Just that couple minutes of seeing just yellow 48, yellow 48, red 48, just kind of just so frustrating. I mean, just it was almost
Sure.
kind of like what Martin Truex had last night, just a 5-minute blow up at the end of the race. We go on from winning the race to just trying to wreck cars and being pissed off because frustrated of the result. So
He tried to wreck every car around him at the end of that race just because he was mad. And none of them that were like, "What's happening? Why are you doing this?" And he was just
it's tough. What you feel bad for the driver though, because in both cases here with Danny and obviously Truex is just running well and you're driving frustrated.
Right. I mean, I saw that the scary part, Danny on Twitter or whatever, X, his seat was bent from, I guess, the drive line that came up or whatever. The rear end broke, and it came up actually bent the bottom of his seat.
Damn,
Something like that. I saw that today. So a little bit of a scary moment from that incident there that it went off to the side. The tethers did their job and pulled it off to the side a little bit, so it didn't kind of hurt his back. I guess that's if I was reading through from him and Kevin Swindell were going back and forth. That's how you get the back injuries, like spinal injuries. When it comes up, just boom, shut. Which makes sense.
Yep.
But so luckily, all is well, and he'll get to try again, hopefully this weekend.
Yeah. So that's Williams Grove on Friday. Hopefully this upcoming Friday we have the 410s and the URC 360 358 challenge. So another 2 sprint car show at Williams Grove on Friday night. The weather right now looks good but cold. I know Danny today put out an update on. He was just like, "Where's the day races? Can we stop being cold at night? Can we just get the day races?" And I couldn't agree more. But I also am impartial to day races. I know what we saw at Williams Grove with the dusty and rubber down conditions, but I think I would rather that than 35 degrees at night trying to get it, because that's not good on the car either, you know what I mean, or the fans. So I couldn't agree more. That's something. I mean, I agree with Danny on things, don't get me wrong, I'm not, but that's probably the time I've agreed with him the most.
Oh, 100%. I was going to say the same thing. That's probably my top 5 most agreeable X tweet Facebook posts he's made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over it.
So going to Saturday. Right.
Saturday, Port Royal rains out. Lincoln rains out. Path Valley rained out. Baps rained out. Everywhere rained out.
I want to do this. So Jeremy Elliott, Sprint Car Unlimited, talked about this today on his 90 at 9. The decision, because Port and Lincoln were very much on the opposite ends of this, and Baps obviously where I was planning on being. Port cancels at 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Lincoln waits. What are y'all's thoughts on that? Or even in the chat, what do you guys think? Oh, hi, Ant. I wasn't there Friday either, buddy.
Can you repeat that again?
Which part?
What was our stance on Lincoln waiting to cancel?
Would you rather a track? Would you rather them cancel early, a track cancel early, or wait until they get there and show up and try? Like, I don't know. Look at that weather report. Like, obviously, every situation is different, but I mean, Jeremy Elliott made a really good point. I think when he was talking, the business has changed.
Yeah, I think that it's this. I think it's changed over the years for sure. And I think all the tracks have it's been pretty clear the last couple of years that they're taking the potential attendance into account. I really, in my heart of hearts, believe Port was going to really make an attempt and Lincoln would make an attempt.
Same.
The other ones, Path, Baps, I don't really have a feeling, I guess, there. I feel like Path has certainly got some races last year no one else did. Right. So they're a wild card. They're like a wild card.
Path and Lincoln are always the ones that.
Yeah, they're the gunslingers. Path Valley, right? So Lincoln, there's 2 races last year. Lincoln canceled, and Path was like, "We're going, buddy. We're going." Baps, I think, on their Saturday night shows, I think they're not cancel happy, but they get it right more than they don't. Right? There's not many that they've canceled and they could have done it. I don't blame. I kind of. It makes sense to me. Lincoln did what they did. Listen, they're not weathermen. I don't care what the weather forecast says. I've been to Lincoln plenty of times where the forecast was this, and we watch racing. I don't want to fault a track for trying. I don't think But everybody's a couch meteorologist when they look at the radar. Go, oh yeah, we knew this hours. Yeah, you're the smartest people in the country when you have a radar in your hand. And you go, oh, I knew this was coming. You don't. Number one. Number two, they didn't race last weekend. They got canceled. So it's Easter weekend. They have an Easter egg hunt. They had stuff for the fans. There were fans in the infield hunting Easter eggs when I got there. And I was there early.
Steph
So
said she was in the infield when they canceled.
yeah, and I don't blame Port for doing what they did, and I don't blame Lincoln for doing what they did. I don't think anybody got it wrong.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure the teams didn't love being there, and I know actually Heather Dietrich was not very happy about it. Right, the day before Easter, the evening before Easter, and they spent their day after Friday night. They got they tore up a race car, get ready. It's a long night. They come to Lincoln. Everyone has a pretty good idea it's going to rain. They commit to go, and so I get it from their perspective. I do. I don't own a race car, but I'm glad they tried. I am, because if I'm sitting at home and I go, well, looks good out my window.
Yep.
Right. We're all playing couch meteorologist again. So I really thought Port would hang in there a little bit longer, to be honest, just because they haven't gotten a 410 show in yet. I feel like they probably thought they would get the attendance, even if it was iffy. But again, I don't blame them.
I really thought Port was going to maybe – I was waiting for an update on Friday that Port was going to move up to, like, if they would have moved up to like noon, 1 o'clock, they had a shot. But I understand why they didn't either. You know what I mean? I'm not faulting them for not doing that. I did think they were going to give it a shot. I was more optimistic. I was about getting ready to go. I'm like, all right, I'm going. I'm looking at the weather, the forecast. I'm like, yeah, it looks like some rain, but like spotty showers is kind of what the forecast said. Like, oh, like a quick shower here and there. I'm like, well, they're starting it early enough. They might still be able to get in if it rains. Granted, it is still April. But I think at the end of the day, they made the right call. Both, and I appreciate Lincoln trying. You know what I mean? The weather down there looked, a little more optimistic compared to the rest of the tracks. But I mean, you can't beat Mother Nature, man. That's just what it is. At the end of the day, you can't beat it. It's always undefeated. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But to say I was disappointed, I was definitely disappointed. But I'm not like pissed off at the tracks or anything. They can only do so much.
I mean, the chat's got it right. Like, no matter what the track does, they're wrong. You saw Lincoln get flamed for, oh, we knew it was going to rain. Why'd you try race? Port canceled. The sun was still out. But we also could see the radar where they're probably got the least odds of making it happen, right? So, like, I know
we don't know that.
Right.
Are you trying to predict the odds, Chris?
They had the least odds. The whole front was moving across the northern side of me, which is where Port's at. So, like, even down here, like, I know when they canceled, Jimmy, you and I were talking with Brett, and he's like, they should be racing. I was here all day, 20 minutes from the track. I don't know how you would have raced. It was on and off, random drizzle, rain. Even had they gotten the race, it would have just been not a good time for anybody. So I don't know. I know this debate pops up every spring or whatever. I think it's all situational.
I do think if this was June, July, you would be at the track until it rained.
Sure.
I believe that one. I think
more like pop-ups.
You try to go for it. You try to miss those showers. Obviously, it would be a little bit different. I think you try to go until it does.
And even then, June and July, when the rain hits, it's hot. It dries it back out. Versus, it never got exactly. It wasn't the warmest, so it was just gonna be wet and damp the rest of the day. It's just how it was gonna be.
Yeah, and it was getting late enough too that the rain picked up. It lightened up, and they got all the push trucks lined up. Not push trucks, but the track trucks lined up to go out on the track, and it picked up again. And everybody was like, you could just feel everyone went, we're done. Everyone knew. And listen, we knew there was going to be more chances as the night went on. And Lincoln actually made a post about the radar didn't turn in their favor. They're right, because I was watching it. Like, I didn't want to go, but I was there because they were going. Like, okay, cool. The radar didn't look that bad, and then I flipped it on as it started to like lighten up, and I'm like, oh, and I looked at it, I was like, oh. And I knew, like, I could see it then, but that 4 hours ago, it didn't look that bad. So
yes, exactly.
So it definitely did not go in their favor, and it could have just the same gone the opposite, broke up, moved south, moved north. It could have, just as much as it got heavier when it really wasn't predicted to. It was supposed to lighten up as the night went on. The heavy stuff was supposed to be okay. So it is what it is. It is, It's okay. It'll be
Yeah.
just fine. There's
Well,
plenty of racing around here.
I did the
Good news
same
is
thing
we
Saturday
still
morning.
race for 6 more months.
I looked at that radar and I'm like, man, it's a thin band of showers. Like it looks like it's gonna go through quick shower. Like the precipitation forecast was like less than a tenth of an like a tenth of an inch maybe. And I'm like, all right, we got a shot today. Like we can do it. Like we can get like say we get to heat races and it rains. Okay, we still have a shot. Then the radar just kept filling in, and there's just nothing you could do when that happens. And it's basically been raining. It's basically been raining since then, and it looks like it won't end till maybe Thursday. So,
Right. That's why I'm kind of worried about Winners Grove. Yesterday was fine for the most part.
Yeah,
No
yesterday
cold.
was fine, but
Yeah.
we're supposed to. I thought it was only like 2.5 inches of rain over the next like between Monday and Thursday. Now I saw between 3 and 4 inches of rain at York in my area.
Yeah.
I'm in the south of Harrisburg by Thursday. Now it's like 3 to 4 inches. So I can't see that the sun comes out until Friday, Saturday, maybe at all.
Sunday.
Yeah, the water table is going to be way too high for Williams Grove for sure. So.
Santos has a good point too, is especially with today's economy and the cost just to get to the track. Me personally, I'm always for a track to cancel early, just thinking about the teams and the fans that travel a distance. I think that's the biggest difference with someone like Path Valley and Lincoln is because they seem to have the majority of teams that are like they're right there. Like it ain't a big for most of the teams that go to Lincoln. It seems like they're there. They're like within a half an hour. Most of them, not all of them. I know there's still some that come from all over. It seems there's a lot more from Port that have to travel from an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away. You know what I mean? Compared to like Lincoln, where there's so many that we know that are just like 20 minutes down the road.
A lot of teams are based in that Hanover, New Oxford area when it comes to sprint cars, and it's not so bad. I do, the Aunt Bays of the world, and
right.
But even you think about Travelers, McCandless, and Elias, they're in town. They know what's going on. They knew they're okay with it, right? That to them is not traveling. Like they're around, they're already here. But some of those teams do there, and you're right about Port Royal. Even if you're based, like if I'm south, it's an hour and a half for me. I don't want to drive. I don't want to prep a car, go to Port Royal, get canceled, drive back with nothing. So I agree with you. I think that there is some inherent advantages based on just geographic location for Lincoln to give that shot. And it's a 3/8 mile with banking versus a half mile at Port Royal. Not that it doesn't have banking, but it takes a lot longer to get Port Royal ready after a rainstorm than it does in Lincoln Speedway. So, or Path Valley for that matter. So all of that goes into account. And, I don't blame anybody for what they did. It sucks that you can see more racing this weekend, but we're getting used to it at this point.
Yeah. And, Brad Weatherby says, at least it's not the S word. Well, when I looked at my forecast, now at least for me locally, Saturday has snow showers in the forecast.
I saw snowflakes on mine too.
So I don't know if we're out of. Listen, we have not. We got like one snowstorm this year, and it's been like that for the past like 5-6 years. Like we haven't gotten much snow, so I will sacrifice a couple race weekends if that means we have more milder winters with less snow. I'll take it. So, but
I just think, I mean, it sucks that the weather falls the way it does. You can't control the weather. You said it. I think you have to take into account your races. It's a weekly race. They matter, but if this was World of Outlaws, it's high limit, whatever. I think you're forced to wait until there's no return. But that's just my closing thoughts. Like it's all situational. Like because you don't be that track that cancels at 10 a.m. because it's going to rain, and then it shifts the other way, and now it's sunny all night, and you look really stupid because everyone on Facebook's going to let you know how stupid you were, no matter what you did. So it's like,
right. But if the forecast holds up or gets worse like it did on Saturday, and you made all those teams travel, then you're getting lit up. Teams are going to get their tracks are going to get lit up either way. I don't envy them.
Nope, not even a little bit.
But like I said, Mother Nature, it's undefeated.
Yeah, let me go back here a little. Jennifer, if you're still watching, you may not be because you probably don't like us anymore. But it's not that I don't. It's not that I dislike Danny. I just think that off track, I think he's smart. He's wise. He's usually more right than wrong. Honestly, it's more the fans of Danny than Danny himself. To be honest, I enjoy talking, interacting with Danny. We chatted here or there. I can't say that I'm a fan, but I don't truly dislike him, right? Like I don't root for him to win necessarily. I cover it and I'll take the shots. And there's only one driver in Central PA I won't take a photo of. If anybody really wants to know, you can DM me. I'd say it. I don't care. But anyway, but I cover it, right? And I appreciate the wins when he wins and what he does behind the wheel. But honestly, the fans probably get at me more than anything else because and it's the same thing. It's always the Danny thing, and the Raymer fans are the same way, right? It's like politics. I don't want to. That you only hear from the extremes, and Friday night that was just the extremes, right? And it is what it is. So it's not it's not that I dislike. I don't really dislike anyone anymore. Gotten a little bit old for that, There, there's definitely drivers I don't root for, but I don't really dislike anyone, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. Well
no,
said.
Chris, you're wrong in our private DMs. But anyway, it's I can't leave it like that, Jay-Z. No, it's not about that. Yeah. So
I wouldn't say
no,
it's always
no,
negative.
yeah, I'm with you, Jennifer, and I understand where you get that perspective, and because I am harder on him probably than a lot of others, because I think that he is respected in our sport and our industry. So in my mind, I hold him to a pretty high standard for doing the things he doesn't like getting that he sees doing, right? Like it's sort of like the pot calling the kettle black. You can't go do those things or throw stones in a glass house sort of thing, right?
Yep.
It's like midget drivers. You can't say, hey, I hate sliders and then go throw sliders on people and wreck them. So, I get it. It's a no win there. And it's, again, and I'm with Jennifer. I hear you. And I probably am. I'm harder on him probably than I maybe he deserves, but I hold him in pretty high regard, to be honest. I think he's an ambassador of Central PA racing, and sometimes he doesn't. I believe some of the things that he does in actions doesn't always back up what I believe and hold him in that high regard, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
I'm
I'm with you on that too, because I've come around more on Danny over the years and realized it's more just the fan base. Because then, and for me, it's when you have Freddie Raymer flipping at Lincoln in a pretty hard flip, and you have guys running up to the fence, Danny fans cheering it, and it's like that's when I'm like, we're taking it too far at times, But I appreciate the passion, though. At the same time, I'm not going to go too far
Sure.
into all that. But for me,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's more of pot calling the kettle black, and maybe more the fan base than actually Danny. But
I just can't wait for the day.
I've come to respect him a lot, over the past few years, and there's times where I find myself pulling for him. So
I just can't wait for the day he comes on the show so Jimmy can explain his Bloomsburg
I
fiasco.
did have a little Twitter war with him at one point.
That was fun.
Jimbo.
Can't wait, Jimbo.
I
Yeah.
am Jimbo.
I'm gonna
so-
be here as the one has never really attacked Danny for anything. You guys can fight it out. I'm here for that show. When Danny comes here, it's gonna be great.
It's fine. I could explain it, and I understood where he was coming from that night because I was also there. But I was just kind of like, "You finished third, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're not
He just
tearing
kind
down a
of
track that's trying
he
to
just-
get going here."
he just peed on your kitty litter. That's all. You're
Yeah,
fine.
that's all.
Oh, hey, Williams Grove though. Speaking of whatever, we had 2 jump starts Friday night
Oh yeah,
in heat races,
and one of them had a Dietrich on the front row.
and he's the one that jumped. And guess what? They gave him another shot, and it was a great restart. So it's like this warning thing. Like, yeah,
It's
they
all
don't
work.
probably love re-racking them at a half mile like Williams Grove when they're already running late. But again, you got to give them a warning. And I like the way they changed. You got to give these guys a warning if you're going to have such a stiff penalty. That's if you're going to, no warning and you're going to, move the driver that jumped. Okay, that's fine, but that's not the rule. They wanted to have it where, they don't want to cause blame on one driver. They're going to make the whole row penalty. I like the warning, and it worked out 2 heats in a row. So, yeah, don't love necessarily. I'm sure they don't love re-racking them at a place like the Grove with time, but I think it was pretty quiet.
I do enjoy the fact that NASCAR has a restart box and still has a start line violation controversy like we had 2 weeks ago.
No,
It's
there was
crazy.
no violation.
Everybody wants to know the one driver, Jay-Z.
I'm just saying, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but they have a box, and we said the box would fix it, and then NASCAR has a box, and they still have the same controversy. So turns out we're never happy as race fans.
Restarts are finicky. You make a line, and the drivers are always going to push that line, no
That's
matter
what they do.
what. Whether
That's-
it's a box, it's a line. They're always going to push that. So yeah, yes, RIP Bloomsbury. Thanks, Ant. I'm still reeling from it. I'm hoping that they come back one day. And good job, Ant, getting a podium Friday night. Good job.
I'm really to see Kyle carried him, not ripping the fence again, but carried him.
There was, yeah, listen, I don't care. I'm not a keyboard warrior. I don't hide behind a keyboard. So the driver I won't take a picture of is Cole Young after his actions at Lincoln Speedway year before.
Last year.
So
We'll take pictures of Seth anytime.
Seth,
He's a washed up big wheel racer.
I was gonna say I want to see him. I want to bring him on after he wins the big wheel race. That way we could say we brought a winner on a Monday.
I want to see him get his ass in a big wheel.
I want to see him and I do our foot race. He challenged me too. That's what's going to happen here, buddy.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah,
we'll see.
Carry on, JC.
No, I'm good. What else? What else we got?
So, World of Outlaws Saturday night after everything got rained out, we had 81 Speedway, Wichita, Kansas. This is a track that's been reconfigured. They added a they added a was it last year they added a wall? But man, that place puts on some good racing. That was fun all night. Just there's at least 3 lines. The top was ripping. You could kind of float through the middle bottom or just wrap around the bottom, and that feature was great. There's a lot of wrecks, but because there was some really hard racing. Rico Abreu leads all 30 laps, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Chris Wyndham, Garrett Williamson, and who else? Was it Jace Park that was in there? Having a hell of a battle, with like 10 laps to go or so. Just sliding each other every other corner, 3 wide. Logan Schuart was having a good run. I can't remember what happened to him. Did he spin or had a flat or something? There was a bunch of cars in the work area. Another one was Brock Zierfoss. He had to come from the B main. He got himself up to 10th, then had some front wing damage, and still got himself back up to 8th. He ended up being hard charger for tonight. So he looked really good up on the top. Donnie Schatz, 3rd, +9. Sheldon Hansfield, 4th, +9. But nobody was going to touch Rico. Rico was in a class of his own somehow. That's 9 different winners in 9 different races to start off the Outlaw season. First time that has ever happened. Just to goes to show the parity, especially at the top level of 410 sprint car racing.
For sure. And the car counts similar, down, up, doesn't really matter. They aren't up, I don't think, overall, if we look at it, and that's not happened. So pretty wild. I watched the heat races, could not stay awake to watch the feature, but the heat races, if the heat races were an indication of anything the feature could be, I'm sure it was great. Didn't get to see the highlights of the feature, woke up and saw who won, but God, man, those heat races were incredible. Like,
yeah,
a high bank, a bank 3/8 mile with differentials in speed, right? So you could run the top, the bottom. It was sort of a paperclip shape. It's not sweeping where it felt like the speeds you had to, your speed top and bottom were a big spread between high speed and low speed. Almost like all throttle time matters and getting the cars, around. So super cool. Kudos to them. They got a race in because no one else can seem to be able to get races in. Pretty cool for them for sure. Where they? I think High Limit gets going right this month in April.
They get going this month. Another week still.
April 9th, I think it is.
Yeah, they start on a Tuesday. They start the midweek series next Tuesday, I believe, actually, and then they race the weekend after. I have to double check that. I'm pretty sure though.
And a lot going on there. Texas and the Midwest and the South again. So excited to see High Limit get going. Hopefully they get good weather too, and they get some races in. Even the guys that are high limit that have gone elsewhere have gotten rained out everywhere they've gone almost. So it's not like it's nobody can hide from it right now.
So far, Williams is the only one that's dodged all the bullets,
which is wild that they got it
on
Friday.
Right,
like it's 2 weeks in a row where I'm like, Williams Groves, anyone getting this in? It's wild out here. Wild times in 2024.
They're out there straight up Matrix, dodging everything all the time.
But that Outlaw race, it was a late one. It was like 12:30 by the time it ended Eastern time. but it was worth it. Every lap of that race was awesome, from the heats through the feature. I was in a group call with our Aussie friend Craig Dunn, who was always slamming me in the chat here.
I'm sure he's gonna
Watching
reappear
that
here any
race with
minute.
them. It was fun. It was fun because while the modifieds were going, we were watching together some Australian sprint car racing. He was showing me, and we had some good conversations about that. Learned a little bit about Australian sprint car racing and stuff like that. So it was a cool Saturday night, regardless of the weather. So,
By the way, did they have 3 divisions scheduled? Was there 3
yeah.
divisions?
So they
Why?
had the modifieds, and listen, those modifieds put on a hell of a race. I was not disappointed. They were fun the whole time. They were side by side, 2 lines as well. And then they had, I don't know, are they late models or are they street stocks? I don't freaking know. I don't know why we have so many divisions of these damn things. They're all shit boxes with fenders. I said what
And
to
they're like
say.
hybrids between a late model and a street
Just-
stock,
Yeah.
and
Just
an
offended half of
open,
our audience.
and a street tire and a race tire. Like, oh man, how many variations of the same thing can we get? You know?
I know. And so they had like 14 cars, so it wasn't terrible, but I don't know. They had 42 Outlaws. Maybe they didn't expect to get that many. And maybe that's why they scheduled 3 divisions, but they didn't need 3 divisions. They could have just went
I'm
with the
actually
modifieds. That was
curious.
part of why it ran so late.
So the tracks, do the tracks schedule to support divisions? Do they have to get that approved by World Racing Group in those scenarios, or
It's a good
can
question.
they do whatever they
I'm
want? 'Cause
not,
I'm kind of interested. I think obviously locally we don't really have. Like Grove doesn't do that, and Lincoln usually doesn't. But I know like BAPS has the option to if they want. So tracks do schedule, or insider source track schedule, but they have to get permission from World Racing Group. Cool, interesting.
that would make sense. They should probably,
I would definitely want the sanctioning, the
Yeah.
main event, to approve of whatever I'm adding to your show.
Because I think that's something that High Limit does well, is that they don't do support classes, at least for their midweek shows, which it makes sense because you want to get in and out.
I fully support the extreme stocks being on the card at the Lincoln Outlaw Show Wednesday night in May. Okay, let's bring the moisture up. They're good for that. They're
real?
good. No, I want them to be. I want it to
Oh.
be.
I think that's a 1 division show, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it always has been, and I
Yeah.
kind of hate it because if you're always going to have a lot of cars, if the track, it ends up having to not be great heat races because they want to get it to a good feature, which is fine, but it doesn't have to be. And the brakes are just nothing going on during the intermission and brakes and things. They want to keep it moving, but they want to give the teams time. I think extreme stocks are perfect. They invite 20 of them, right? You won't have a B. It won't be crazy. Exactly, Dallas. Thank you. I'm going to die on that hill. The street tires, man, it brings the moisture back up. It really, at more times than not, it helps the track. And I love that division, and I miss them at Lincoln, man. I'd love to see them on a card on the Outlaw show on Wednesday night. In May, I would love to see that. Nothing that's going to hold the show up. Invite 20 of them. That's about their field for the most part anyway. And I think those guys would love it. They're in front of a big crowd. I think it'd be cool. So if anybody in Lincoln that has any say, I'm in.
Try to get them on there. Tyler says tracks usually are allowed 1 to 2 divisions at most with the sprints. Late models usually run 3-4 other classes, especially in the South. I mean, they don't need pushed either, so that kind of helps. I get that. That saves a little bit of time. Was nice to see Super Dirt Card Series at New Egypt, and that was actually something I was watching that while waiting for the Outlaws race to come on because I was that bored.
Based on what I heard, did anyone actually see the cars?
Yeah, but man, you couldn't see anything. I gotta give them a lot of credit at New Egypt because they were pushing everything through. They were dodging rain in and out all day. They're really trying to get this in, and as they're lining up for the feature, it's starting to rain. They're pushing, but they kept them out there rolling around, and then the rain let up after about 5 minutes, and they were able to just buzz the track in and get going, and it ended up being a pretty fun race for as weird shaped as New Egypt is. It was, it was their first Super Dirt Car Series race in like a long, long time. I don't know. I don't know enough, but watching it on Dirt Vision, you couldn't see shit out of turn 4. And they had a good camera angle of them coming down their tri-oval backstretch coming into turn 3. That was really cool because you could see all the different lines then that these guys were pitching it in with. Some were going high, cutting down. Some guys were just floating through the middle. It was cool to see the different entries on those guys trying to get like clean air and a clean track in front of them to try to make a run on the other guy. But who the hell won? I can't remember. But it was fun. It was fun to watch. I stopped watching with
Wasn't it
like
Parego?
because the Outlaws started time trials. So
Wasn't it Parego?
that's right, Parego.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Perigo, but
I saw
You
my
got to
buddy
get the
Zuna
right,
Perigo.
the right emphasis on the right
I saw
syllable
my
there.
buddy Brett
Parego.
Perigo in the chat. Thank you, buddy.
You had to
Congrats on
mention
that.
his name, didn't you? You just
So he put himself in the comments this time. Usually just finds his way into our show every week. There's been a Perigo mention in both of my shows every week for this whole season.
speaking of Perigo, I guess we can look at this upcoming week and the
There it
Rowan
is.
podcast.
And there it is. We got old Craig Perigo.
Oh,
Took out no basket weaving this week. He's taking the night off from basket weaving, his words. And he's going to bring some snacks and come talk to Tony and I. It's going to be a good time.
That's gonna be a fun
Yep.
one. I'm gonna be hanging out in the back, busting his balls because
He's a
Craig's
big
ball
Craig
buster.
Perigo. He's a big Craig Perigo fan. I'm intrigued because for those of you that haven't watched on Thursdays, so far I think every week somehow the Perigos come up, but it's always Craig. And when that track gets goofy, that car goes vroom to the front. When it gets tight and dry, he's the only guy that seems to know how to do it. I don't know why these guys aren't taking notes. Actually, they
Goofy
have.
guys are fast on goofy tracks.
Well, it turns out they have tried to run his setup. They can't. They've given up trying. So I'm intrigued. I want to see how unique that setup is, and I know he's done a lot of racing before, so it's gonna be a fun one. I know Tony's pumped.
I saw a couple comments in the chat about Goofies on Saturday night. I just want to know where my invite was. Like I didn't have to be home, right? I went home, but I didn't get an invite, Todd. Thought we were cool, buddy. Guess not.
That is one cool thing, maybe, and that might be like a advantage that if you do at least try to get the race in, you could go throw a party at a Goofy's or something like that.
Yeah.
Get
what it sounded
everybody
like,
together, go out, have a couple drinks, have some fun.
Hang
Make
out
the
in the
best
parking
of a
lot, whatever you want to do,
rainy
man.
night.
Support a local racing sponsor, right? Goofy sponsors some cars in the local
Yeah.
area. So, yeah, man. Well,
You're
I
always invited.
know I'm always invited, but I didn't know you were going. So see the difference there? Like I got to know that that's happening before I get, just show up, walk in. And I go east. You all went west. I went east. So, I got to plan that out.
Yeah.
No,
Don't worry, guys. We have to bribe him to come hang out with us too. Don't worry, fellas.
So plans for this weekend. So let's take a look at what is scheduled at least. Got Williams Grove Friday night. That is a 410 and URC 360 358 challenge race. So again, like I said before, double sprint race, always fun at Williams Grove. That one should be interesting. We're gonna have some double duty. Drivers between the 410 and the 360. Then Saturday, you got Port Royal, hopefully trying to get theirs in. This is their makeup from last year, from something that got rained out. Their blue collar classic with the 305s, their highest paying 305 race got rescheduled, which is something cool that Port Royal did to this Saturday, along with the 410. So that should be a cool show as well. And then Saturday, Lincoln takes that Williams Grove 410 URC 360 358 challenge, and they run that on Saturday night. So you're going to have some guys who are running 4 features, hopefully, between Friday and Saturday night, if weather permits. And then Sunday, Bridgeport. Their only 410 race scheduled of the season. And I'm telling you, go if you're in the area and you have something, it's a cool Sunday matinee show. Starts gates are at 2, with modifieds and 4 cylinders. That place puts on a pretty good show, with the high banking and everything. And I'm hoping that they get a pretty good turnout for them down there. So it is a 3-race weekend. And Sunday actually looks like the best day right now weather-wise. It looks dry and warm.
So
We'll
here's
see
how
how
we
the
know.
rest of the weekend goes.
I plan on, to answer the question, going to the races on Friday, which means we will probably have our first Grove rain out because I'm trying to be there. So I will be at Williams Grove on premise when the gates open. And then Saturday, I'm going to Baps to see my sportsman buddies. And it's probably going to rain because I'm supposed to go there. So I'll probably be fishing, actually, all weekend, as it turns out.
Jimmy?
I was planning on going to Baltimore, but I'm not sure if we're still doing that because we're going to go to a concert and go away for the weekend. But if I am in the area, I might try to do Port Royal and maybe Bridgeport Sunday. But we'll see.
So I think Williams Grove Friday for the double and Lincoln Speedway for the double this weekend for me. Too many guys running the double between 358 to 360 in the 410 deal. Someday I'll get to Port Royal again if it's still there by the time I get there. But there's a lot of 3 race weekends coming up.
Yes.
This weekend, Bridgeport. Next weekend, you have Babs on a Sunday. The weekend after that is the Sealands Grove 410
Grove, yeah.
on a Sunday. So next 3 weekends, there's opportunities to see racing on 3 different nights locally. So save up your pennies, get to some racetracks.
Yeah, that was something too where last year, I know for myself, man, I burnt myself out. I burned the candle a little too quick. Not just going to so many races. I think I was at like 30 races by the time we got into like by Speed Week. You know what I mean? And
Also, it started
so
compounding, too.
I'm not happy about these rainouts, but I mean, I think it's kind of saving and it kind of builds, and this is where we talk about maybe we race too much. It builds up the anticipation for the races that we are going to see, because we got some big races coming up in April and May, and then we start getting into big money. We got the Kaufman race, which is going to be fun in April at Port Royal. And then as we get into May, we got Outlaws at Lincoln and Williams Grove, the Morgan Cup. We also got the Weikert weekend with High Limit coming into town. So it's going to start picking up here real quick. And like you said, 3 straight 3-race weekends, plenty of opportunity to see races. So yeah, but not burning it too quick. You know what I mean? Just kind of spreading it out a little bit.
Sure. And then Santos, it's the second time Santos has asked this. So
yeah,
you go ahead, Jimmy.
So if you get the Port, who you picking to win if they run? It's tough. Especially with no handicap or anything, it's just going to be straight draw.
Straight draw.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's
I mean,
spooky.
they haven't run anything, so I don't know how they would handicap. Shit, I gotta go with Lance.
I was gonna go. That's exactly who I was gonna go with.
Yeah. He's looked really good in the 12 when he has run. A lot better than I thought he would have at this point. And I know he's chasing that win record there, and he's just good there. I would take. I think Chase Dietz is a factor. Logan Wagner's a factor, obviously.
My follow-up was Chase.
My sleeper pick would be Mike Walter.
So I would love to answer that question when I got there, because I want to know what the track looks like.
Yes.
That matters to me. Like, I don't know if you pick Lance in every track condition. Not saying you can't do it. Trust me. I'm not saying that. But you give me heavy and a cushion, I'll take Devin Borden.
Yeah.
You give me Mike Walter from the pole in any of the conditions, I probably take him. You give me dry slick, I'll take Lance, right? Or Logan Wagner. Turns out he still races. So
can't forget Macri either.
You got to think Macri, DeWeese, Wagner, Borden, Chase, Dave Smeltzer. I didn't have to ask you who you were taking, sir. I know it was Chase Dietz. This guy, biggest Chase Dietz fan I think I know, probably. But you put all of those guys somewhere in that field, you're going to have a hell of a feature. But honestly, I want to see what the track looks like before I make my answer, I think, because to just pick one is impossible at Port, I think. What do you think? Like,
right. That's why you see we went down the list. So Jimmy took all of my picks. And
I didn't take it.
No, you kind of did everything I was going to say in order. Lance, Dietz, and then you threw in Logan Wagner. And then Walter was the other one. It's just like, yeah, that's exactly what I would say. And listen, I forgot about Macri.
You can't forget about guys like, obviously, Sisney, Halligan, Cody Lehman. There's a couple other, Port guys that run there weekly. I don't know if Derek Locke is running 410s there again this year. But he looked pretty good there last year when he ran there just pretty much weekly. He looked like he was coming into his own there. So he could be another one. And then who knows who else shows up? You know what I mean? So, but I do think with the 350, the 358, 360 race, you might see a little less at Port Royal than what you would want. But who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to bet against Macri now.
Macri's obviously a big choice. And Brent's coming home, isn't he?
Well, he didn't say he was, but he said.
Why would he do that?
Well, if you read that post, it was a little cryptic. So we'll see. It was a little cryptic about like, hey, they didn't run Oklahoma or they didn't go up to Kansas.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was a little cryptic. Is he going to run the weekday high limit deal? Is that part of regular points or are they separate points?
I believe they're all
I
one.
think there's a separate points
There's
thing.
a separate one for midweek, but I think all midweek races count for the main one. There's a
They
separate
do?
one for just. I think so. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure
Well,
all high limit races are under one. But yeah, I was kind of confused. If they
it
come
seemed a
all
little bit,
out.
yeah, it seemed a little bit cryptic, but there's a lot of racing here at home. And if the weather looks favorable, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see him run a 3-race weekend. Williams Grove, Port, Selinsgrove. Like, turns out he's good at those places. So it would surprise me. And hey, man, I'm a Brent fan. If he comes into town and is going to run Port, that might change my Saturday plans. I
He's
got to be honest with
probably
you. So
he becomes a favorite, and you might drive the other 2 hours north. Like,
And
Mike have to do the Selinsgrove Sunday. I did that last year. That triple, I think. Well, Williams Grove probably canceled for some reason, but I don't even know if there was a triple. But I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, I went to the Selinsgrove opener last year. I'd love to go back again this year. Go up there. I want to support the Stutz family and Ethan and those guys. They do a good job, and they deserve to have a fair shot and chance, and they need fans to show up. So
their Racery Park opens this weekend, by the way. They are racing, I think, Friday night, the small kart track, by the way. So that's something that they do offer too, by the way, if you didn't know. If you are looking for something in that area this weekend, they're also racing karts. So, yep, there you go. Matthew Bird, there you go. Outlaws at Selinsgrove later in the season too.
unless he means outlaw cards, because I think
That's what I thought at first.
I
Maybe
think
that's what he means.
he races
But
cards.
also the World of Outlaws later this season too.
With Wing the Sportsman there that day. Crazy times.
Yep, Wingless Sportsman will be there with them, so that'd be cool. Mike Wagner, I'm pretty sure he's healthy, and he was planning the race.
I saw the post that says whatever they said he's back, but they didn't see him say he was back. But
Outlaws later this year.
Yeah.
He has shirt saying he's back, so I
yeah,
guess
back in black. I thought was because he was going back to the black paint scheme too. I think. I don't know. That's the way it kind of looked like too. But it does sound like he's healthy and he's ready to race. So that's good. That's good to hear. You know what I mean? Because we weren't sure.
Yep.
April 7th, this Sunday, is BMS karting racing. So there you go. Super Dirt Car Series at Selinsgrove in June. So yeah, Selinsgrove is going more special shows this season. I think that's a good move. Get the bigger shows. They will have some weekly racing, but it's so hard on Saturday nights, man. It really is. Especially with Port right down the road to try to get.
There's only so many divisions.
Yes.
And there's only so many places to run them. And when you have, BAPS has usually 3 to 4 divisions. Lincoln has 2 to 3 divisions. Path Valley has 270s, 600s.
And then Port, 40 minutes down the road.
It's hard to find a niche. So you just kind of have to, I guess, roll with the punches.
They used to have, like I said, when they used to have the 360s and the super lates, and then 360s kind of died out and the super lates started going to Port. So I think what they're doing is the best at they're
best of the cars
really capitalizing on what they can do best. They're getting a lot of really good series in there.
I have an idea for them. Model it after Bridgeport and just run it better.
Oof.
Bridgeport of
Shots
Pennsylvania.
fired. Shots fired at Jersey,
Bridgeport Grove. Let's go. I mean,
oh,
yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah. I'd drive. I'd make that drive. Driving to New Jersey sucks.
He says that so smugly too, knowing that Amp A and Spence is ready just to fight him. It's like, do it because he knows that he's right, and they know that he's right, so they can't even fight him.
Yeah, like it's so bad. Like we have bad roads, but that's just a bad state. Oh,
dude, I have to carry cash on me to go down. I mean, I carry cash anyway, but I got to make sure I have cash on my way back so I could pay to get out of the damn state.
Well, we know you carry cash. Last time we saw you on video, you're dancing with a stack of 20s.
I'm just
one at 50-50, so we know what
you're
you're
I'm also scared to carry cash in the state of New Jersey if we're getting carjacked or something, like Jesus.
Anyway, so real quick before we go, I wanted to we're talking about doing this the past couple of weeks, but since there isn't I have an easy pass, but they still wouldn't. I guess I didn't have that easy pass that day. You're right. But I do have an easy pass in my car. Sorry. So far, I mean, it's still early in the season, but we are about a month and a half into the season. Lots of, we're quite a few in. Who is your surprise so far this season? And now this doesn't have to be locally; it could be nationally. And who is your disappointment that are maybe getting off to a slow start that maybe we expected a little bit more out of? Who wants to go first? And obviously, put your picks in the chat.
So I'll go disappointment so far, and I get it's out of the comfort zone. Devin Borden has just been shaky at best. And now he's at Lincoln, a place that, he's been hit or miss at, but he's a track champion. And I know they're going through some changes, but he's been shaky. So hopefully get that cleaned up. Obviously, the time to struggle is now. If you're gonna struggle, you might as well do it early and get those bugs worked out. Like they swing, it's just been a wild card. Good one.
Yeah, surprise.
I mean, I would say Macri's been good, but a surprise, no. That's what Macri's supposed to do. I don't know. Gio Celsi, I'll go with him. He led the points up until I don't know if he's still leading now. He crashed this weekend, but he's kind of doing his thing.
Tyler took my surprise. Kyle Moody. That was going to be mine. I think he's really shown some really good consistent speed to start the season that I wasn't. You see him up there once in a while, but it wasn't very consistent. This year, he really got off to a really nice, consistent start. And my disappointment, I know it sounds dumb, but is Carson Macedo. I really thought he'd be more. I mean, he's had some bad luck too, but I would say, they had a tough start to the season. I know they're probably disappointed in it as well, but I expected a little bit more, maybe out of the gate. Surprise is my disappointment for not is Chris.
And I wasn't even there Friday, man.
Jay-Z.
On the one probably disappointing for themselves and us a little bit, Borden for sure. Just the inconsistencies, not those finishes we're looking for. Lucas Wolf a little bit, right? I feel like it's just ho-hum again. Not just quiet, just there. I have high hopes for him every time I see him at a racetrack, and I just feel like it's ho-hum a little bit. Not awful, but just And Carson Macedo, he did get a quick time, right? It's been better the last, race or two, but started off really slow.
Yeah.
Kind of high limit's been whooping his ass a little bit. So anyway, not starting that. But on the good side, I have more good than bad. Kyle Moody for sure. Now listen, we've seen Kyle Moody. We saw this last year. He got a win at Lincoln early last year. Really great results last season, and it sort of tailed off. And I've said this before. I want to see that consistency, that aggressiveness, that speed carry through the season. That will be. He's over the hump, right? He had good help last year. Was really clicking with Kyle Pruitt early, faded, tailed off. So Kirk, if they mesh, they get that going. They got to continue it and build on it, right? Top fives are fine. Let's get the wins and let's click it off and let's take that next step. Aaron Bollinger for sure. Is another one. Now Lincoln hasn't raced in 2 weeks, so it's been a little bit like, or did we forget already?
Yeah, maybe.
Dylan Norris is another one I think has been very good, very consistent here early. Same thing though. Had a stretch last year where we're like, oh, maybe this is that time, and tailed off a little bit. So we got to see it continue, right? We get into handicapping now, not just draws. We get into handicapping. Can you have those good finishes? Come back the next week at Lincoln, start in the back of your heat. Get handicapped again, start 8th or 9th, and come back through the field. And he's had some good finishes with the best Central PA around, right? Port Royal hasn't been around. Williams Grove has been Friday nights. Good start to the season in multiple cars. Danny Dietrich, I'm putting on this list. I hope you're still watching, Jennifer. He hasn't finished outside the top 5 until Friday night all season. Okay,
True.
Or the podium, maybe. Podium?
Yeah, he's been right up there.
So. With last year not being what he wanted, ran 80 couple races, not the wins he wanted, not the year self-admittedly, this season couldn't have started off any better. And my last one is certainly Gio. It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Last year we did our grade at the end of the season, and I gave Gio a better grade, I think, than both of you guys.
Yeah, I was ultra critical.
Right? for being a rookie and having the season he did and putting up the stats he did against guys who were veterans on the tour. I was very impressed with his season when you put it all together and go, okay, here's the numbers. If there was a stretch where it didn't, wasn't, I expect that as a rookie. I don't care who you are. Rookie in the Outlaw Tour can kick your ass, right? Bill Baylog's having a great start to the season. Can he run it? Can he keep it up for a whole year? He's a rookie. He's a veteran. We know that. Can he keep it up for a whole year?
Yeah.
So, I think those guys are really the ones. I should have put Bill Baylog on that list, to be honest with you. But I know we kept it a little bit more local. But Gio, for sure, at the start to the season. Now, he had a crash, right? He crashed the other night. But just a great start to the season for him. So I'm excited for what's been going on there. And as much as we want those drivers to continue that, and there are surprises so far, it's the same thing on the flip side for the bad guys. We know Borden can get it done. We know Macedo can get it done. And we know Lucas Wolf has won races. Felt like he kind of turned a corner a little bit last year. Was very competitive at times. They have just as much season to get it right. So We'll see. Time will tell.
Someone, who was it? Was it Randy?
You're looking for that. There's a lot of Seth Dietrich fans in the chat. So
Yeah, a lot of Dietrich fans, and rightfully so, man. I mean, his average finish was second.
I said Seth Dietrich.
Oh,
there's a lot of Seth Dietrich people upset that he's not
He
here.
averages
in the chat.
he averages 2 hot dogs a night. That's what he's averaging.
But somebody said Landon Crawley, and
yeah,
that should have been my first pick because man, he has blown my mind with he's been in. Was that his 4th dash already of the season? I think it was his
Tyler,
4th or 5th.
Where's Tyler? We need you.
And
sounds right.
I did not see that coming. We've seen this with guys, young kids that come out on the tour, and maybe we'll have a couple nights here and there. Like Bill Rose won a heat race, you know what I mean, a week ago. So, but he's been consistently fast. Now he's got to figure it out through the feature. And he's a young kid. He'll figure it out. But man, that's the best that 7S has looked in a long time. He's a ripper early in the night for sure. So that's awesome. Tyler says I'm right.
I just love the fact that he said kids and Bill Rose in the same sentence. Good job, Jimmy.
Well, I'm just saying, you get these surprises where, hey, they're having a night where they're fast. You'll see Brock Zierkos maybe in a top 5 one night. You know what I mean? I was surprised what he did at 81. You know what I mean? So being out on the Outlaw Tour, you're gonna get so many chances to try at least hit it right one night. But for Landon to come out as a young kid, he's 17, and just come out of the gate and basically hit it right off the bat. Obviously he hasn't had the best finishes in the feature, and he'll learn that as he gets more experience. But he has that raw speed already at the beginning of the night. He's already ahead of the game because that's what the Outlaws are all about. You got to have time trial speed to get yourself track position and even have a shot in these things. So he's already halfway there.
Tyler with the hot take of the freaking night here. Bill Rose with an Outlaw race win. Let's
talk about a B feature.
Let's
pump the brakes.
That's up there with that time I said Danica was going to win a cup race. Man,
that's a bad one.
I'm pretty sure the night that Bill Rose won his heat ended up a lap car in the A. So let's pump the brakes just a touch there, bud.
I hope
Tyler's right. I hope so. I want to see Bill Rose do good for sure. You know what I mean?
For sure. I'm rooting for the guy. Everyone is. I don't know if there's many people. I don't know if there's anybody that's not. I'm rooting, but hot take of the day. Tanner Holmes, great speed, first time out of the box the other night. Yeah, right. Speed right away and was battling in the heat there. It was fun to watch. That was pretty cool to see, right? Back doing his deal. So that was fun for sure.
He didn't specify as a car owner or not. Oh, yeah,
tricky fella.
Tricky.
You talked about Landon Crawley already in 4 dashes this year. If we go back and look, was that car in 4 dashes all of last year?
No,
probably not.
Right?
That's what I mean.
And nothing on Landon Price, right? Landon Price?
Robbie
Price, sorry.
Yeah.
Robbie Price, nothing against him. He actually was getting some better results than Jason Sides did in the car, but 4 dashes already. It's April 1st, and they've had some rainouts and cancellations. That's awesome for him. So good for them.
Absolutely.
Brent, are you talking about Tanner Holmes? Yes, I think he did have to get caught up in a wreck or something happened. I believe, and or Bill Rose.
Either way,
I think Bill Rose, when he was getting lapped it affected the front runners somehow. Somebody, I think that night, people were kind of getting on his case about being in the way or something. So either way, yeah, Bill
I was
Rose.
talking about Rose.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember the highlights of that night. I'm pretty sure it was that same night where, like, they're coming down with a few to go, and kind of they moved him out of the way there a little bit or something. So yeah, Robbie had a couple dashes. Agreed. Yeah.
Santos said his surprise. Where did that go now? His surprise was Lance's speed in the 12. We only really have one race to go off of, but I agree. And his disappointment was Peck in the 20 car,
Which I agree.
which yeah, he wasn't around this weekend either. I was kind of a little surprised.
Yeah, I think they got ready to go out, get ready for high limit. They parked it and ran enough races, got their quota for the season or something. But Lance's speed in the 12 didn't surprise me, and here's why. When they made that deal last year and they ran at the end of the season for a couple races, they did that as a strategy to figure out what they had. They wanted to go into the off season and they wanted to evaluate what they had. That's why they took it to Charlotte and they ran the final showdown at BAPS, I think, right? They did this stuff at the end of the season on purpose to figure out in the off season, hey, what can we go work on to be ready to come out of the gate in the spring? And it doesn't surprise me at all. I've seen the 12 have speed. We've seen that car have speed, and you put someone like Lance in it, get him comfortable in the stuff he wants. I'm not surprised. It doesn't. It wouldn't surprise me. He wins multiple races this year. I don't know where to put the cap because I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to put a number on it, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see him in victory lane multiple times.
No, I think he's going to win races too. I didn't think they would show speed. I think that especially based on what happened with Charlotte and stuff last year and Charlotte, you know what I mean. But figured maybe it would still take a couple more races to beginning of the season to kind of figure it out, and they might still have that, you know what I mean. But didn't look that way at Williams Grove, that's for sure. Steph said hers were she's been shocked with Chris Frank and Matt Campbell, and we agree. And also, speaking of Matt Campbell, next week's guest, we're going to try this again with him. Matt Campbell is going to be on the show next week, tentatively. Last year we had some technical difficulties with him, so hopefully we can fix that a little bit this year and get a little bit of a better interview. But good dude, who's definitely turning some heads. Obviously, his new car. This X car is awesome, but his new 16 that he debuted at Williams Grove on Friday night is sharp as hell. So looking forward to that next week. We will have a guest next week. So how about that? Even if we do get rained out, so then we have.
And I think it's also Matt Campbell's birthday. I saw that today.
Today?
I'm pretty sure I saw that as well.
I don't know what he did on April 1st.
I know it's Luke Blanker's birthday. Happy birthday to him.
I don't know what it is about April 1st, but my Facebook friends, there must have been 13 birthdays today. Like, what's up with April 1st, man? Like, it was wild. I was like, we're like more and more and more. It's crazy.
I don't know, man. I was just born this way.
So yeah, that'll be next week, and then Matthew, real quick with a question: which Outlaw rookie do you think will get Rookie of the Year? I'm going with Landon Crawley. I think Bill has the veteran, with being able to race, but I'm wondering if being out on a 95 race tour might catch up at some points. But I don't put it. I think it'll be tight. But I'm gonna go with Landon because I think he already has so much speed up front that if he figures it out mid-season to start getting some finishes, he could win a race this year. That I would not surprise me if it gets to that point with the speed he's already showed.
I'm gonna go Baylog just to be different, and what he's done. He's ran stuff before. He start getting the tracks that he's more comfortable with. I think there's an opportunity there.
Buddy is a Rookie of the Year. That's dumb. It's probably going to be. Well, I don't know. I still don't know. But Buddy would probably be the odds-on favorite now that I'm thinking of it.
I mean, yeah, I think if that's true, it's got to be Kofoid, but I would take Baylog. I'm taking Baylog because the veteranness in him. He's been there. He's seen it. He hasn't ran the tour. Yeah, and they're both going to take their lumps, but I think, Landon's going to have a lot of learning to do. You get into the summer months and the grind of it all. Baylog, I think, is built for this. And, a guy in our Discord says he's got plenty of equipment. I was concerned about equipment. years past that's been a problem. It sounds like that's not a problem. So if he has the equipment, and I think he has that that longevity to make it through the season, I'm taking Baylog. I mean, I think that he can grind it out in those veteran days and grind out those finishes when you don't have the best car and get an 8th instead of a DNF or a 15th. So I'm taking Baylog just on the experience factor.
Where did they finish on Saturday? Now I'm looking at it. Buddy,
He's even
he
there.
finished 5th.
Oh, there he is.
Baylog finished last, and Landon Crawley finished 19th. So, okay, yeah.
But yeah, if it's Kofoid, it's Kofoid, right? I don't even think it's
Yeah.
a question. I forgot all about that, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Well, the thing is with Buddy is like Buddy can go win a bunch of races. He has the best shot out of all three to go win, not just a race, but multiple races. But he tends to not be consistent. And I agree with you, Brad. He could be a guy that finishes 20th, but I could see that with any of the other two as well. So,
but his ceiling's higher. He's going to amass.
Yes,
He's going to amass a lot of top 10s and top 5s. Where I think Baylog is second in top 10s, and I think Crawley comes third in top 10s. Not to say that he won't get some, but I think you're going to have even if Kofoid takes some DNFs, I don't think it's going to offset the amount of top 5s he's going to end up with, in my opinion. So another question: the high limit roster at the top of the high limit, it's a lot more competitive than the outlaw roster at the top, isn't it? Like, if you look at that, Rico and Courtney and Peck and Brent, it's a pretty wild top 4 or 5 there. And I'm super intrigued how that's all going to play out, because there's a lot of talent right there in those top 5. And they're some of the best drivers in the country the last 3 years altogether. Brad Sweet, obviously, Kyle Larson. But like, man, I can't be more excited to get this high limit season rolling to see who's going to end up kind of rising to the top and saying, no, I'm taking this, Man, I'm hyped for it.
Yeah, I agree. This has been a topic of conversation throughout the year already, but it was another one when we were watching the Outlaw race on Saturday night with some people. Yeah, I think the high limit roster is a little bit better than the Outlaw roster, but they're still so close. I mean, you still got such great drivers on both. It's a great time. We've talked about this on the show before. But I mean, you guys got like Rico, you got Brad Sweet, obviously defending Outlaw champion. You got Tyler Courtney, who could be, I think he'd be top 3 or 4 if he was on the Outlaw tour. And then you got guys like Corey Eliason who can win races. Zeb Wise, defending All-Star champion. He's going to be good. So like Brent Marks, shit. I mean, James McFadden, like it really is like a little bit like once you start getting down to that 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe that if you would rank them driver, I would say that starts pushing you over the edge of the Outlaws a little bit in terms of talent.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah, I'm excited. And some of the tracks they're going to go to are different, unique. It's really going to be. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. So I'll be watching for sure. Be watching all of them if I can. Hopefully, I'm at the track myself, but I'll be watching if I'm not.
Absolutely, can't wait.
Corey
to
Day,
get back to the track. Pretty sure George is just catching up to all the other things.
Corey Day, good God, man, Corey Day, like that guy, just such a talent. There's so much young talent right now in the sprint car world, whether they're national or local. It's pretty awesome for sure.
That's what I can't wait for. Those weeks in PA where both of those converge on the big races here. You know what I mean? It's mostly usually the Outlaw races, but but man, seeing all that talent on the track, like a Knoxville Nationals or Eldora. I mean, we saw it a little bit with Volusia, but you didn't have everybody there. Once you get everybody there in these big races, it's going to be such a good season. I think with how even I think all these drivers are and all these teams are at this point at the top. So it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a good time.
So again, check out Roland Podcast on Thursday. Craig Perigo will be on the show. Definitely going to be a fun one. Definitely check out the Roland Podcast and everything PA Dirt Track and Creative. Shout out to Tony and everything that he does. And then we will have Matt Campbell on next week. And hopefully we have some more racing to talk about as well with the upcoming 3 day. We can get to the track if it's nice out, if you can. If not,
go fishing.
Go
fishing. Trout season on Saturday.
And now that Matt Campbell's coming on next week, he's going to win a race this weekend. So
Right.
That's what TTT does. We stay winning. Who do I? Brad Weatherby. Come on, man.
We all
Who
know
do I?
this.
High limit or posse?
It's posse or
Buddy.
die, buddy.
Buddy.
If
Come
you're
on.
talking posse on posse tracks, nobody beats posse.
We're not picking a high limit. I'm a Brent Marks fan. I'll always root for Brent. I don't care what
He's still
tour
posse
on,
anyway.
but he's still posse. So
All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks everybody for joining us again. Happy birthday, Chris.
Thanks,
happy
guys.
birthday, buddy. Have a good one,
And
man.
we will see you guys next week.